When the 2026 FIFA World Cup finally came to an end, millions of fans left Texas with memories of unforgettable matches, dramatic goals, and packed stadiums. But for thousands of barbecue lovers, one of the most memorable stories of that summer had nothing to do with soccer. It happened inside a smokehouse. For 30 consecutive days, the fires inside Zavala's barbecue almost never went out. Every morning before sunrise, someone was already feeding oak into the smokers. Cook too little, and customers would leave disappointed. Cook too much, and thousands of dollars worth of meat could go to waste. For many barbecue restaurants, the safest option would have been to keep doing business as usual, open on the normal schedule, cook the usual amount, sell out if necessary. After all, selling out had never really been considered a failure in Texas barbecue. But Zavala's looked at the situation differently. Rather than seeing the World Cup as a risk, they saw it as an opportunity to answer a question they had never been forced to ask before. Could they scale their operation without sacrificing quality? That single question shaped every decision that followed. Instead of maintaining their regular 4-day schedule, the team decided to attempt something they had never done before. They would remain open for 30 straight days. No breaks. No recovery days. No weekends off. Just continuous barbecue production for an entire month. The decision wasn't made lightly. Inside the restaurant, everyone understood what it meant. Running a smokehouse wasn't simply a matter of keeping the doors open. Every brisket required well over half a day inside a smoker. The employee had to think several days ahead instead of simply preparing for tomorrow's lunch service. The first sign that this operation was unlike anything the restaurant had ever attempted came on delivery day. For most barbecue restaurants, meat deliveries are routine. For Zavala's during the World Cup, they became an event. Truck after truck arrived carrying enormous quantities of beef. Inside the walk-in cooler, pallets of briskets quickly filled nearly every available space. The cooler itself was so large that, as the team joked, it was actually bigger than the dining room. On one delivery alone, nearly 3,500 pounds of brisket arrived. Each box contained 4 whole packer briskets. Within minutes, roughly 250 briskets had been unloaded into the cooler. At first glance, it looked like enough meat to last for weeks. It wasn't. According to the team, the next several hours required patience. For roughly 6 to 8 hours, the meat remained completely uncovered. This was when smoke did most of its work. The bark slowly darkened. Moisture evaporated. Fat began rendering. Every brisket developed the deep mahogany crust that Texas barbecue is famous for. Only after reaching that point did the team move to the next stage. Wrapping. This is where Zavala's deliberately departed from one of Texas barbecue's most famous traditions. Many legendary pitmasters, including Aaron Franklin, popularized wrapping briskets in pink butcher paper. The paper allows the meat to breathe while protecting it from drying out. It's become almost a symbol of Central Texas barbecue. Zavala's respected that tradition. That decision might sound almost controversial. Inside the restaurant, however, it was entirely practical. Foil accelerated the cooking process. With the briskets wrapped, the pitmasters increased smoker temperatures to around 300 to 315 degrees Fahrenheit. The higher heat rendered fat more quickly and reduced the overall cooking time by roughly an hour and a half. For a restaurant producing barbecue at this scale, 90 minutes wasn't a small difference. It meant employees could finally go home earlier. It meant less time standing beside smokers in temperatures exceeding 100 degrees. It meant maintaining quality while improving efficiency. As one pitmaster joked, Aaron Franklin may have the best brisket in the world, but I want to go home, and my team wants to go home too. Interestingly, butcher paper wasn't abandoned completely. Once the briskets finished cooking, they were removed from the foil and wrapped again, this time in butcher paper, for their overnight rest. The reason was simple. Most barbecue restaurants serve at least one house sausage, and many simply treat it as another item on the menu. Zavala's saw it differently. To them, sausage was another opportunity to show personality. Instead of relying on a single recipe, they built an entire lineup of handcrafted varieties, each offering something different. Their menu included a classic brisket sausage a jalapeno cheddar sausage, a pizza pepper sausage, and another brisket-based specialty that had become a customer favorite. During the World Cup, producing those sausages became almost a factory operation. Thousands of links had to be prepared, while the smokers were already packed with briskets and pork. Yet despite the enormous workload, the process remained surprisingly traditional. It always began with fire. Unlike brisket, sausage couldn't simply be thrown into a hot smoker. The morning pitmaster arrived before sunrise, lit a deliberately small fire, and allowed the smoker to stabilize at around 160 to 170 degrees Fahrenheit. This first stage wasn't about cooking quickly, it was about smoke. Cold smoke slowly surrounded every link, building color and flavor before the heat was increased to finish the cook. Thick white smoke rolled through the chamber, wrapping itself around hundreds of sausages hanging neatly on the racks. At first glance, it seemed strange. Why cool something that had just finished cooking? The answer lay inside the casing. Texas barbecue lovers often describe a great sausage with one simple word: snap. That satisfying bite, where the casing gently pops before giving way to juicy meat, is one of the defining characteristics of a properly made smoked sausage. The rapid cooling helped preserve that texture. After the ice bath, the sausages were placed on racks to dry completely before being refrigerated overnight. Only then were they ready for service the following day. Looking back after the tournament, one number perfectly illustrated the scale of the operation. During the busiest stretch of the World Cup, the team produced roughly 2,000 pounds of sausage. That translated into nearly 8,000 individual links, enough for 8,000 people to each enjoy a sausage, or, as the pitmaster joked, enough to make 16,000 sausage wraps if every link were cut in half. The joke highlighted something important. Even after producing thousands of sausages, the team still hadn't lost its sense of humor. But perhaps the most interesting item coming out of Zavala's smokers wasn't sausage at all. It was something they called almost carnitas. Traditional Mexican carnitas are usually cooked in large copper pots, where chunks of pork slowly simmer in their own rendered fat, along with citrus, until they become unbelievably tender. The method has existed for generations. The team at Zavala's loved carnitas. There was only one problem. They weren't a carnitas restaurant. They were a barbecue restaurant. They didn't have giant copper pots. It stood apart from traditional pulled pork. In fact, that was exactly the point. As one member of the team bluntly put it, pulled pork is boring. Rather than serving the same shredded pork found at countless barbecue restaurants, Zavala's wanted something people couldn't easily find elsewhere. The gamble paid off. Before introducing almost carnitas, the restaurant typically sold through only one pork butt each day. Afterward, demand exploded. Now they often use 3 or even 4 pork butts just for that single menu item. Nothing about the smoker had changed, only the idea had. And that perfectly captured the philosophy behind Zavala's barbecue. Respect tradition, learn from it, then make it your own. By the time the World Cup reached its busiest weeks, customers weren't visiting only for brisket anymore. They came for sausages, made entirely in-house. They came for almost carnitas. They came because Zavala's had proven that honoring Texas barbecue didn't mean every restaurant had to taste exactly the same. Sometimes, the strongest identity isn't created by abandoning tradition. It's created by knowing exactly where tradition ends. And some showed up simply because a friend had told them that if they ever visited Texas, they had to try the brisket at least once. The orders kept coming. Brisket, smoked turkey, pizza pepper sausage, jalapeno cheddar sausage, potato salad, beans. The cutting board was rarely empty. During a normal service, Zavala's could handle around 100 to 150 tickets, which meant feeding several hundred people in just a few hours. And when necessary, the restaurant could also take on catering jobs for anywhere from 2,000 to 5,000 guests. Ordering meat by the pound, choosing between lean and moist brisket, picking sausages, figuring out the sides. For someone walking into a Texas smokehouse for the first time, it could easily feel overwhelming. So Zavala's wanted people to ask questions. They wanted customers to watch the brisket being sliced. They wanted them to taste samples. They wanted conversations. Because to them, barbecue was never just food. It was an experience. Some people came because of the World Cup. Others came because they simply loved Texas barbecue. But Zavalas wanted every guest to leave with more than just a good meal. They wanted people to remember how they were treated. Eventually, the World Cup came to an end. The crowds began to thin. The smokers no longer had to run at full capacity every single day. And after a month of nonstop service, Zavalaz could finally return to something closer to its normal rhythm. Looking back, the scale of what they had accomplished was remarkable. Around 20,000 pounds of brisket, nearly 10,000 pounds of pork butt, thousands of pounds of sausage. By trusting the team, watching every detail, and refusing to lower their standards, they made it through the busiest month in the restaurant's history. Eventually, the World Cup became a memory. The trophies belonged to the champions on the field. But inside that Texas smokehouse, Zavala's had earned a different kind of victory. One brisket, one customer, and one unforgettable day at a time.